Today I am reviewing the Viltrox 24mm F1.8 FE, so full frame Sony mirrorless, and this has AF or autofocus, which is pretty awesome. Now, this is a great focal length for full frame cameras because 24mm is the same as 16mm on an APS-C camera, and I use 16mm on my APS-C cameras all the time for everything. Let's jump into this review by showing you how this lens comes packaged. It comes in a large white box. Inside you get a microfiber branded pouch, a user guide, and a warranty card. The lens itself is nestled nicely in foam padding, and it comes with plastic front and rear lens caps. Also, you get a plastic lens hood that is of the rose petal variety. The lens itself feels solid. It is made out of metal, glass, and some plastic, and it comes in at just 346 grams. It's also very compact for being an f1.8, which is a good thing, especially if you are using it on a smaller camera body such as the A7C. Starting at the rear, there is a metal mount with electronic connections because this lens has autofocus. There is no weather sealing here around the mount, but there is a USB Type-C port that you can use to update firmware with Viltrox down the line. There is an aperture ring on the side that moves fairly smoothly from f1.8 to f16 and then clicks over to A for auto. There are no distinct clicks from f1.8 to f16, but there is a slight click to auto. The rotation is just okay. It sounds not so great, has a little bit of that metal on metal scraping noise, which is not ideal. In front of that, you have the lens specs, a Viltrox logo, and DFRBW, which I had to look up stands for Digital Full Frame Real Beam Waveguide, which is what Viltrox calls their special glass coatings on this lens. Now, the focus ring is nice and smooth. It has a bit of resistance to it, which I like, but it's not mechanically linked to anything, so it just spins infinitely in either direction. Around the front, there is a pretty compact front lens element that is convex, and there is a whole lot of information here for you to read. 55mm filter thread and minimum focusing distances. Inside there are 11 elements in 9 groups with a bunch of special coatings, a stepper autofocus motor, and a 9-blade diaphragm. Mounted on my A7C, it is a nice and compact combo that I found very easy to travel around with, and again, with the focal length of 24mm, you can use it easily for portraits, landscapes, and street photography. So that is what I did. I took this lens out with me on a couple of recent trips, and here are the results straight out of the camera. This is using the A7C. Ready, set, go. Alright, so the overall performance is good. In terms of optics, there are some characteristics that are good and some characteristics that are not so good. The first thing I noticed immediately is the vignetting is heavy. I tried shooting with and without the lens hood, and that did not make a difference. There was still a lot of vignetting. The problem with this is that there is enough to where I'd want to correct it in post, and there are no in-body corrections available for this lens, at least yet. The second thing I noticed is that there is quite a bit of chromatic aberration when shooting this lens wide open. More than I expected from a lens that has so many special lens elements with special coatings. Again, no in-body corrections, so if you want to fix this, you will have to try to do so in post. I will say there are very few fast primes out there that don't have some chromatic aberration, and this lens is by no means the worst that I've seen. It's about middle of the pack. Third, this lens has some interesting distortion lines. If you're just shooting a flat brick wall, the corners look all sorts of wonky. You get some pincushion distortion and the corners are definitely stretched. So again, this is something that you will have to correct in post if you are looking for straight lines in your images. Fourth, sharpness in the center of the frame wide open was excellent. It's an easy wide angle lens for portrait work as the colors and the contrast are good in the center and the edges with the vignetting don't distract too much from the overall picture. Now when it comes to corner sharpness, there isn't much wide open, so if you are planning on using this lens for landscapes, I would recommend stopping it down to about f8 to get the corners sharpened up. Fifth, in terms of autofocus, the performance is good. You'll see that I have been filming with this lens this entire video, and so you have a good sense of how good it is at tracking the eye and whether it goes in and out of focus a whole lot or not a whole lot. I wouldn't say that it's on the level of a native Sony lens, but the overall autofocus is very good in terms of speed and accuracy, and it is very silent. For photography, I didn't have any issues with this lens's autofocus. It seemed to grab the eye very quickly and accurately in each shot, even in low light situations. And the great thing about this lens in terms of autofocus is that with future firmware updates, it should get better and better over time. The only limitation will be the stepper motor inside of the lens. Lastly, the bokeh is pretty good. It is not overly distracting, it's fairly smooth, there is a little bit of onion ringy effect at times and the edges do get a little cat eye effect, but considering that this is a wide angle lens, the subject separation for portrait work at 24mm is excellent. So in summary, it's a lens that is a great performer wide open in the center, but suffers from a few lens correction issues: vignetting, distortion, chromatic aberration, and soft corners wide open. Now everything but the corner sharpness can be adjusted and improved in post, so if you are editing your photos anyway, you probably won't care. But if you are the type to shoot photos and then use them straight out of the camera, you may want to consider the compromises. So all of this comes down to price, because for the right price, this could be a relative bargain in the world of full frame prime lenses with autofocus. Now this lens comes in at just over $400, which is not bad for what you're getting. If you want the equivalent lens from Sony, you're going to pay at least double. However, there are some other competitors coming out on the market, some of them that I have not tested on this channel, so there are going to be some more options if you're looking for a 24mm lens. And for stuff like this, where I'm shooting myself in a small room and you're getting that kind of wide field of view and the autofocus is performing pretty well, I'd say that this is a pretty good bargain. Again, I don't care about the corner sharpness here because it should be a little bit blurry, should be nice bokeh. In the center of the frame where it's important, you should be getting a relatively sharp image of my face. Anyway, that is going to be it for my review of this lens from Viltrox. I hope you guys enjoyed it and you learned something from it. Let me know down in the comments what you thought of the overall performance and what you thought of the samples. Always curious to read your comments. Now, if you are interested in picking up this lens or reading more about it, I will have some links down in the description below, so definitely check those out. As always, thank you so much for all of your comments, all of your likes, and your support. Stay tuned for more, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.